I'm reaching for the top where the stars collide. Fought for what I'm worth, now it's my turn to shine. Started from the bottom, now I'm rising from the grind. Hustling through the darkness, vision clear in my mind. Dreams ain't just for dreaming, I've been scheming on the low. Turning every setback into fuel, let it grow. They doubted my ambition, said I'd never touch the sky. But my wheels are rocking and I'm ready to defy. Look at all these mountains, conquered each and every one. Came from nothing, now I'm here, witness how it's done.
Hi, I'm Alex, the Autistic Dudestic, or his Autistic Dudeness, or El Duderino, if you're not into the whole brevity thing. And this is my YouTube. And for my first video, I wanted to tell you guys about my experience with autism, what my day-to-day looks like, and what led me to making this channel. First and foremost, I know the first thing I tend to get from people that I tell I'm autistic to is, but Alex, you don't look autistic. Well, yes and no really is my answer to this saying. I am aware that to society's standards, I do not look autistic. I can speak clearly and in the correct context. I have a bachelor's degree. I've had a job my whole adult life. My physical appearance also doesn't look autistic, which that one ponders me a bit, but I guess I can understand how people get that.
Turn my swag on!
But these really aren't things that would indicate if I was diagnosable or not. It also speaks to how society sees things on the surface, and not what's happening below to that actual person. Society would call me quirky, that I don't like shirts with tags, and that I couldn't figure out how to hold the pencil correctly. And that the safest food group choices tend to fall somewhere in a food group that my wife calls meat, cheese, carbs.
Ron loves meat.
And that's where society would leave things. It wouldn't push past to find the underlying truth to it all. Take the pencil example. Teachers would have me try the right hand, and then the left. They'd show me repeatedly how to correctly hold the pencil. But you see that whole 2 fingers and the thumb technique? It just couldn't register in my brain. What ended up happening was just grabbing it with my whole hand. Like I'm some caveman, just etching drawings into a rock.
That's barbaric.
Indeed. I made it work, and it's been like that since preschool. Another quirky thing, I really only eat within my own food group called meat, cheese, carbs. Society would call me an all-American man, but there's so much more underneath it. The amount of sensory input that goes into eating is just off the charts. Eating lettuce in a salad? Okay. But what's a salad? Lettuce with just a little bit of ranch, nothing else. But crossing over lettuce onto my taco? No way. Tacos can't be crunchy. That would be too much. There are so many sensory things when it comes to food that people tend not to recognize at all, or just not think about. But it rules my decision 3 times a day. Like sauces or condiments. Ketchup, mayo, really any sauce, that'd be a hard no. Except I eventually found sweet and sour sauce, and I can enjoy that. But the variance between different restaurants' sweet and sour, it can be jarring. Imagine taking a bite of your favorite food, only to find out the recipe is completely different. even though it's labeled the same. It's like what the Girl Scouts did to us a few years ago. You remember the original Thin Mints? Yeah, me too.
Look, I don't want your Thin Mints, all right, kid?
And society doesn't bat an eye at these things. When, for me, it can ruin my day or send me into sensory overload. But I also understand why so many people don't take the time to understand or even question it. Because I was in the same boat. I was raised in the 90s. I get it. As society, from the time I was born, autism wasn't really something that the general population talked about or even tried to understand. And if I'm being honest, the only person that I was told that had autism growing up was this kid that I went to school with that had an aide that just went everywhere with him, helping him complete certain tasks and just getting through the school day. That's all I really knew. That's what I had in my mind for many years, up until I watched Rain Man for the very first time.
Rain Man? Yeah. I said Rain Man?
Yeah, funny Rain Man.
And as society, that's how we operated for many years. That those images were our understanding of the spectrum. And a lot of people haven't challenged that imagery yet. And that's why people don't understand when I tell them I'm on the spectrum. They say, I'm not. That I'm just weird about my food. Because they haven't challenged their understanding of things. But society hasn't really changed the imagery they've given to us for years. Everyone keeps going like nothing is happening. But part of changing that imagery from Rain Man that we've all known since the 80s is understanding what's happening day to day for people that are on the spectrum and understanding them. Not just calling them quirky, but taking them for who they really are.
1988, good as my book.
Okay. Autism is the best example of a square peg going into a round hole. Does it fit into that hole? Well, of course not. But what if you just hit it and you smash it? Well, yeah, eventually it'll fit into that box. Of course you can make it work that way. But not without causing some long-term damage to that peg. And that peg would lose priceless parts of itself. That made it what it was. And that's what it feels like sometimes to be autistic in this society.
Start smashing. And I smash good.
The term the autistic community uses to fit in to that round hole would be called masking. And when you mask for too long, you start to damage the parts of yourself that you're just covering up. Essentially just sawing off your corners to fit into a society that doesn't even understand you anyways. You see, masking isn't something that's taught. Well, not like in school, but through social anxieties and the feeling that I was, different. I didn't know why or could put my finger on what it was. I just knew I had to blend in. So I created my mask, and I found myself being somewhat alike to the young version of the character in the Cable Guy movie. I was changing who I was for each person I was interacting with. I would steal jokes and traits off of TVs and movies that would help me blend in. And I was molding and shaping myself into someone I thought people would want me to be, just hiding underneath that mask.
That's correct, Wendy. We all wear masks, metaphorically speaking.
Unknowingly, for a large portion of my life, I let the mask be in control of me. And I wasn't even in control of it. Always just so hyper focused on everyone around me, trying to be the version of me that they wanted, which just left a lot of negative emotions like anger, sadness. But I could bottle that up and just shove it down and put that mask on. And the cycle would go on and on and on. And I thought that's what I was supposed to do. Blend myself into society and just make it work. And that's a toll that is taken when society decides to move on. Like nothing is happening. And act like no one is suffering. So they call me quirky and weird. But something society doesn't see is my journey of self-discovery after my diagnosis and helping me find myself after I cut off all those corners to just fit into that round hole.
In the repair bay, repairing stuff?
Unmasking is the best and worst thing that I did. Some people call it a superpower, and some call it a curse, when in fact both are right. There's two sides to the blade. It's just all about how you handle it. It's the best for the reasons of understanding myself better, and the worst because I can no longer hide behind my mask. Also, society has not seen my extreme autistic burnout that I've been suffering the last few years, alongside the complex PTSD that is alongside for the ride. And now I'm at a point in my life where I'm in control. It's very free. Sure, if it's some job interview or if I'm just trying to be social on the rare night out, I can slap it on. But for the most part, day to day, I just let me be me. And I don't care what other people think. Could I mask to make them feel, I don't know, better? Sure. But what's all that worth? All that energy to just keep up that mask? Why not rather come out of the shadows and just let me be me and allow that to become acceptable?
This is who I am now.
And that is one of the major reasons as to why I decided to start this channel. Is this is who I am. And I see a lack of knowledge around autism as a whole. I really don't think the research or just the general public's knowledge is that vast. We're just starting to uncover this gigantic iceberg. You see, there's no cure to autism, just knowledge. And knowledge is power. And with that knowledge, I have the ability to put words to feelings. The feelings that were always there, but just bottled up inside. Then when I'm properly equipped with the right vocabulary, I'm able to verbalize those feelings. Which truly then am I able to gain a whole new form of control over my brain and not let it control me, where I can let my body be my guide.
I am in control of me!
At the age of 29, I was given my diagnosis. At that time, I was able to work with a specialized therapist that worked solely with individuals on the spectrum. He was able to explain social cues and scripts that I was never able to figure out. He explained how to have successful relationships. Not in the way of, this is what you do. More in the sense of, no, Alex, Emma's true point is this. You didn't hear what she was trying to say. Do you think you could explain this to her to have a better understanding of each other next time? It gave me an outside perspective to how my brain processed things that I never had before. And it was so much help. And I really grew that first year. I was able to put words to so many feelings for the very first time. But then some stuff happened in my life to where I stopped researching the diagnosis. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to continue with that therapist. So I did fall off for a few years, and truly only me and my now wife understood my autism to the best of our ability. I want to stop here to note that I have a wonderful wife, but I'm also truly super lucky that I found her. She's a great human, but she also has her degree in mental health. So she did have some education on autism prior to us meeting. And I do believe that helped us get through the years before I started researching this whole thing again. Because she understood my needs and my actions. She also gave me more time to communicate and form my thoughts so our relationship could last. So I needed to stop there to say, if I didn't have a strong support person at home and someone that could co-regulate with me, I may not be in the position that I am now.
So, thank you for your support.
And after falling off of researching and not being able to continue with that therapist, I only thought of my diagnosis when I was in a situation I didn't feel understood or when I had trouble verbalizing issues. Overall, I just stopped understanding myself up until that level. Nothing further, nothing deeper. And that's how I continued for several years. And the toll of not understanding myself and stripping off that mask, but not replacing it with knowledge and coping skills, it just kept catching up to me. But I shrugged it off because I don't know. What was I supposed to do? And that's what a few years ago I got my answers. As I changed my career into the mental health field, my burnout was just starting to get worse. And the work in the construction field was weighing heavy on my shoulders. So my wife suggested that I could be a support staff in the mental health field because I understand people so well. So I took the plunge. I started working with this company, and at first it was amazing. This company had just announced they were neurodiverse friendly. A couple individuals I work with self-identified as on the spectrum or simply neurodiverse. I thought, this is great. Me too. And we were all on cloud nine and lived happily ever after.
But I guess that was just a dumb fantasy.
And my residents started to come home and tell me about their days and their frustrations and what things they didn't understand in their social environment. The program was having them work at the mall or supermarkets, and every day they would come home and crash on the couch for hours and cry to me that they didn't have the energy to make dinner. They kept saying, I'm sorry. I should be able to do this. I'm sorry. I'm not getting better. I'm sorry. I'm going to tell them to increase my meds. This guilt was due to something they were supposed to do, like make dinner for the house, or they were supposed to be in bed at a certain time. But they just couldn't sleep. Still thinking about all their interactions they had at the supermarket and all the cues they were missing. And every time we talked, all my residents kept saying was, I should be able to work at this place. This is where the company wants me to work. So I started to feel like this company was putting no forethought into what would work best for the resident. It felt like the company was just shoving each resident through the program and acting as if the resident should behave a certain way, the neurotypical way.
Fall in line, soldier.
And day after day, I would say it was okay. We would figure it out. And then I would clock out and go home and crash on my own couch and tell my wife I was so sorry. I didn't have the energy to do the dishes. But what my brain would be stuck on, why is a certain resident responding to a situation in a certain way? Or what was their thought process that led them there? What's the terminology behind those feelings and behaviors for my residents? And what tools could be useful to help work with it? And that's when I started researching again. And I found the YouTube channel Orion Kelly, that autistic guy. Big shout out to him. I learned so much just going through video after video. If you got the time, I really think you should go over and check out his page. I learned so much from him. Okay, fun fact. Through my research journey, I found a lot of information coming out of Australia and the UK. And I realized how much the United States is just behind with research and supports for the autistic community. And that's what, after finding the data, research, and finding out about ABA therapy, which I'll probably bring up in a later video, and watching myself and my residents fall into deep pits of depression, I started to get frustrated. I was craving for more information, more understanding, and really more people to just talk about these things. And I found all the videos on YouTube that I could. And I found accounts on social media too. I wanted to find help for my residents, but also for myself. That's what really pushed me into being a person that is making their voice known was starting a job at a school that claimed to be a therapeutic school for autistic teenagers. I quickly realized it was just a normal boarding school that they stuck autistic kids into and expected them to just fit into a neurotypical box. And that's what not be autistic. And I quit the first job with the residents because I felt the company wasn't helping them. And there I was again with teenagers that were just chopping off their corners to fit into that round hole. And I just can't sit by and wait for answers.
I think we need to find a real solution.
What I saw around me was a lack of understanding of what autism is from the staff and from the teenagers. They walked around knowing what not to do, but they weren't given guidance on how to handle life or were explained on how their brains work differently. And when staff acted as if I, the only staff that had openly expressed that being on the spectrum was less than and had no idea what I was talking about, I just got so frustrated. Frustrated for myself, but mostly for those teenagers. That they'll have to go through the same traumas that I had to. They were changing themselves to fit the mold. But these kids and their families, they were promised so much better. And I got more and more angry, and I wanted to make a change. And one TikTok came onto my feed from the account Torn Wolf. And a video his mother was narrating said, if someone doesn't fit your understanding of autism, perhaps it's time to expand your knowledge. And that's when I realized the voices that I was craving and looking for, the voices I was desperately searching the internet for and wanting more people to come forward to, give me the answers, and just were those same people were just struggling day to day like I was. What I was craving was someone to put words to what I was seeing around me, to be a voice from the community and express what being on the spectrum was like. I realized I was waiting for a voice that I had. I thought I needed to wait for someone else to take the plunge and tell me what I wanted to hear. But maybe I could make a difference and hopefully make a change. Not just for my previous residents and for these kids, but on a much wider scope. The autistic community as a whole. So that maybe we don't spend years with an outdated version of autism in your mind that just never gets challenged. So that the mental health world starts listening to these voices. And maybe the United States can catch up to the UK and Australia in both research and available support. Or at least just close the gap a little bit.
Let's go change the world.
So here I am, unmasked, wanting to make a positive change for society as we know it. And if nothing else, so that I can be me and have fun expressing how I see the world. So if you want to see me change something in this world, or just fall flat on my ass while I try, give me a like and follow. It would mean more to me than you would know. Also, in the description, there is a link to my Discord page. Please come on over if you want to be a part of a growing autistic community and chat with the Autistic Dudestic himself, or just anyone else lingering around at that time you could hit it off with. This is my first video, so you could likely just be the first one in, just hanging around, but hey, it's a start. Also, join me next week when I discuss autistic masking. What is it exactly? And how can you use it for your advantage? Until next time, same dude time, same dude channel. Autistic Dudestic, signing off.
When I was young, I had it all planned out, that something big was down the road. I really thought I'd have it all by now, not be a failure if I don't. That's when you say, hey, my love, we're nowhere near the end. There'll come a day, I swear you ain't seen nothing yet.